Today we wrap up the final chapter of Who's Who in Jabba's Palace. Episode 4 is coming up next. Hey Star Wars fans, welcome back to another video from All Things Star Wars Considered. As always, I'm your host Doug, and today we're going to wrap up the Populate the Palace segment. 4 episodes, quite a bit, but as you can see, there was a lot of characters. Well, you will see. You've already seen probably close to 40 or so as of the recording of episode 3, and I think I've got another 18 to 20 today. So it's a lot. It's involved. It's in depth, but that's what you guys asked for. Somebody wanted to see a who's who of Jabba's Palace, and I try not to disappoint the fans. So again, having said that, if there is something that you've seen in this room, if there's a subject that you think I might be well versed on and you'd like me to kind of expound on it, please reach out to me in the comments section, and I'll happily put something out there for you. Somebody wanted the who's who of Jabba's Palace, and here we are 4 episodes later. Some might not like it, but you know what? I'm here for the fans. You're not here for me. I'm here for you. So also, there's some Hoth stuff coming down the pipe. Leonard Lee, one of my subscribers, has been following the channel since early on. He's asked me to spotlight some Hoth play sets, so I'll be looking for that in the near future. But as for today, we're going to finish off and get to the final chapter of Jabba's Palace, so stay tuned because that's coming up next. Okay, let's get into this. I'll tell you, when you're watching this, you're not going to realize what went into this. I've recorded this segment about 3 or 4 times now. One time there was a mistake made. Another time the camera fell. Another time I lost the entire volume. We lost all the audio. I don't know. This has been like a doomed segment. But we're going to try it again, and we'll see how we make out. We're going to talk about the big men. People were asking about the big guys, the big men. And if you're wondering what they're talking about, you will see soon enough. The first one we're going to talk about is Jabba's head of security. And that's going to be Effant Man. Now, this is a great figure. I mean, look at the size of this figure. It's massive. He's doesn't have a ton of articulation, but you know what? For what this figure needs to do, it looks great in any display. Just throw him in with all the palace denizens, and just your eyes are drawn to him because he's massive. The sculpting is great on it. The paint is great on it. Again, not a lot of articulation, but it doesn't need it. This was kind of a cool feature. His mouth opens and closes. So you can kind of open it, close it, open it, close it. I think it looks great. Our second big man is Hermie Odal. Another massive figure. A lot of weight to him. He's got the cloth goods cape. He's got the opening and closing mouth. You can see it. I always laugh when I do that. I don't know why. But again, some articulation, not a ton. He's got the cool vibro axe there. And again, just pop him into display. And he doesn't need to do anything except stand there and just look cool and massive and, just very ominous and impressive. And he doesn't like to stand. That vibro axe actually kind of holds him up in a lot of cases. Okay, now our last big man of the big 3. Now, I grew up with the Celtics. We had Bird, McHale, Parrish. Those are the big 3. Jabba has his big 3. And it is Effant Man, Hermie Odal, and a Man-a-Man. Now, a Man-a-Man was Power of the Jedi. He was a fan's choice figure in 2000. He came out on the Power of the Jedi Deluxe card back. He came with a kind of a chintzy version of Salacious Crumb. He comes with his staff with the skull heads on it. He comes with his carcass that he drags around. Now, you may have seen this If you've seen my Rancor pit, I usually take that bunch of bones out of his hand and I just throw it in the Rancor pit because it looks just cool sitting on the floor of the Rancor pit. You know, all these bones in a carcass. You know, so yeah. So we got a couple more, and then we're gonna wrap up this segment. Now, I mentioned in my last video, my last video, Dengar. Now, another bounty hunter that people might not realize was there, but he was, and that is the Trandoshan Bosk. Now, Bosk was on the Barge, and he was also in the Palace. Now, this isn't the greatest iteration of Bosk. He's been out since, I think, the late 90s. This is part of the Force 2. He came out in Vintage Original Trilogy Collection. He's come out in Saga or Legacy or one of those. And, so he's out in a bunch. I actually have a good version of him on my Barge. But again, like I said, it's kind of difficult to get to some of these things sometimes. So I just grabbed Power of the Force 2 from my Palace. And again, he works. So we've got one final one. And I didn't really know where to kind of put this figure. But we're going to mention him finally. Some people had mentioned about Bomar Monk. Now, Bomar Monk was an internet exclusive. That's how I initially picked this character up. And let's bring him in so you can see who he is. Now, Bomar Monk also came in the Jabba's Denizens 3-pack. He came with Bubo. He came with Wal Kabashit, and obviously Bomar Monk. Now, if you're wondering who Bomar Monk was, he can be seen when R2 and 3PO first enter the palace. Once R2 rolls in, 3PO comes running after him, and as he runs towards the camera and they move towards Bib Fortuna, you can see Bomar Monk kind of scurry past as, like 3PO is, making his way towards Bib. Bomar comes scurrying past. Now, again, I mentioned him. He comes in that 3-pack. And like I said, it was Bubo, him, and the last one is Wal Kabashit. Now, what about Wal Kabashit? Well, stay tuned. And here is Wal Kabashit. Now you can see why I didn't include him with all the rest, because he's permanently affixed in Jabba's throne room. He has a suction cup on him, and the suction cup used to work. And then I added plaster to this entire throne room, and suction cups just don't work when you attach them to the plaster. So, yeah, this guy is permanently affixed there. Obviously, this is the entire throne room setup. You have seen it before. I have showed it in past videos, but we'll kind of just do a quick sweep so you can kind of see. And you can see I've added some ambient lighting, and it works. So, yeah, that's Jabba and his throne room. Okay, I bet you thought I was going to forget about the Rancor and his pit and his victims and his caretakers. Well, no, not on my watch. We're going to start off first by talking about the pit itself. It's a custom pit that I designed. It's made with expandable foam that you use to fill in holes and cracks. It's like an insulation. It comes in an aerosol can. I basically sprayed a bunch of gobs of this stuff, let it dry, and then painted it and kind of carved it and put it into place. I also created a bunch of doors and grates, and it's very, very effective. I used some play sand for the floor. And let's talk about the actual Rancor himself. Now, I would like to use the Legacy one, which is a little bit bigger of a sculpt, a little bit larger, a better sculpt altogether, and a better paint job. But this pit is a little on the smaller side. I designed it around the palace that sits above it. So in order to kind of make everything work, I used the Power of the Force 2, which is still effective. It's not as nice as the Legacy one, but it works within these small confines of this pit. As you can see in the Rancor's right hand, I have Luke, which I've spotlighted in a past video. On the the right side of the video, excuse me, we have a Gamma Ray God, also spotlighted in a past video. He's pleading for his life. We've also got to now talk about the couple of caretakers that the Rancor has, and that is one, Malakili. Malakili is a legacy figure. It's a great figure, great sculpt. He's not as bulky as the Power of the Force 2 figure, which they put out in the late 90s. This one's more to scale. It's more in line with how the character looked in Return of the Jedi. I specifically and really like the chest detail on this figure. He's got like that hairy chest, but it looks like it's dirty, like it's sweaty, like it's grimy, like he's been working in a machine shop all day. It's just such an effective look for the figure. The next one we're going to talk about is Giran. And Giran was also available in the Legacy Collection. Now, Giran actually consoles the Rancor Keeper after Luke dispatches the Rancor. Another great figure. I can't say enough good things about Legacy figures. They just did such good work during that time frame. And they put out characters that they'd never put out today in the Vintage Collection. So, like I always say, I'm trying to switch things up, change things out. And instead of having the Rancor being brought to you, I'm bringing you to the Rancor. So, hope you enjoyed this segment. Okay, like I stated earlier, we're going to switch some stuff up today. I'm going to learn from some past mistakes. I'm going to try to enhance some of these videos. I'm going to do a couple of different things, not make it so sterile. So we've already taken you into the palace, showed you some of the denizens kind of hanging out there. We've taken you into the Rancor pit. We've taken you into the trophy area. And now we're taking you on to the prisoner skiff, and that's where all our heroes were before the Battle of Carcoon took place. Obviously, we've already talked about the heroes, so I'm going to exclude them, but we are going to start with who was piloting this prisoner skiff, and that would be Vidane. Now, this came carded in a 3-pack of carded figures. It was this guy, it was Brock Starsher, and it was also Visum. But for all intents and purposes, well, like I said, we're sticking with this prisoner skiff. So this is where our heroes are going to go. But Vidane was in charge of piloting this this skiff. And he actually works perfectly back there. He actually holds on to both of the control sticks. And he looks great. Our next character, and it's a great thing that they re-released this figure last year, and this is Khetanna, not to be confused with Barada. This is a great figure. Again, this was re-released on the Vintage Collection back in 2023. So he was right about there. We had Lando over here. We had Han and Chewie over there. We had Luke. And, of course, I have to mess around with Khetanna, and he fell. But in any event, so we have these two guys. We also have the two Weekways. And let's bring in Weekway. This is the guy that was actually trying to prod Luke out onto the plank so that he could feed him to the Sarlacc. One final figure for this particular segment is the Weekway the Weekway Skiff Master. And he went right about here. Let's hope that I don't overweigh this thing and we get all these characters and end up falling over. So here we have it. These are your 4. There was also one other one which was released in that 4-pack that I spotlighted for a brief moment last week. He would go right about there. Lando would go there. So let's wrap up this segment. When we come back, we're going to do the second skiff. So just stay tuned for that. Okay, this next segment is going to be a little tricky. The reason I say it's going to be tricky is because there's 8 guards on this skiff, and Hasbro to date has only put out 4. So it's kind of half full. You can get a little creative. I've put Clay 2. I've put Giron on this skiff to kind of double as yachts Orin. I've put other denizens on there just to kind of fill up some space. But until Hasbro kind of gets the let out, we're going to have this skiff only be half full. So let's get right to it. All right, let's start with the worst figure of this bunch. And it's a bad figure only because it's outdated and because there's no articulation. But sculpt-wise, it's not too bad. And that is the Power of the Force 2 Pote Snitkin. Now, again, this is just a big blob of plastic. But for what he needs to do, it actually works. So let's just pop Yachts Orin, and he was actually piloting this skiff. So let's kind of just pop him back here and just have him do his thing. Again, it works, He doesn't need to do much except stand there. And for that, it actually gets the job done. At the far end of the skiff, and I've mentioned this figure initially came out on the Black Series. It sold for a fortune. It was like, I think he was called Skiff Guard number 27 or some crazy thing like that. I actually picked this figure up for like $65 loose. He ended up becoming available after the fact on the Skiff Guards 3-pack, which I've mentioned. It came with Vidane, which was spotlighted in the last segment. It came with Visum, which will be spotlighted in the next segment. And it came with Brock Starsher, which was, like I said, Jabba's Skiff Guard, like number 27. Great figure. Not a whole heck of a lot of detail to this figure, but again, he gets the job done. I just stand him at the front of the skiff, and that's what he's supposed to do. So, again, gets the job done. The next figure is Nikto. Now, this is an original 96 figure. Obviously, he was on this skiff. He's been re-released. He came out last year. This is the original that came out, I don't know, sometime around the early 2000s or somewhere in that ballpark, maybe mid-2000s. But in any event, a great figure. I'm glad that they came out with him again, so I was able to add him back into my collection. Now, again, like I said, there's no Galid, there's no Yachts Orin. There's a couple other kind of no-name skiff guards that you could populate this with if they had put them out, but obviously they haven't. Now, the other skiff guard that I'm going to add is Barada. Now, Barada was put out early on by Hasbro in a 3-pack called, I think, Jabba's Skiff Guards. It was an awful figure, 5 points of articulation. I actually had my buddy George put this figure together for me. Now, he used the Khetanna figure, which again I spotlighted in my last segment. I gave him this figure, and this is what I got back. Now, this is a great figure. I've spotlighted him on the channel in the past. He repainted the pants with a blue. He gave it the red stripe up the sides. Turned the vest and shirt into just a one-piece prom-type shirt. I call it the Jerry Seinfeld look. Changed the complexion up a little bit. Gave him the yellow bandana. Gave him this cool backpack. And this figure is great. So I can't say enough good things about this figure. So we're going to add him here. And let's wrap this segment up. So again, it'd be nice to have all 8. But if you get creative, you can fill this skiff up easy enough. So thanks for watching. And let's get on to the next segment. Okay. This is going to wrap up the whole kit and caboodle. Now, normally I would have liked to have done this and used the Barge as my backdrop, but I've got a bunch of stuff in front of it, and I was making a mess trying to access it so I could move my whole operation over to it. Like I said in the one of the earlier segments, I'm going to bring you to the Rancor pit. I wanted to bring you to the Barge, but you know what? It just couldn't. And so we're going to have to shoot this last segment on this prisoner skiff here. So it still will work. The goal of the video is to showcase all the Jabba's denizens, and we're going to do that. So let's get to customs. We talked about Barada in the last segment, and that was the one that my buddy George made out of the Khetanna figure. Now we're going to talk about some simpler customs that I've done. They're not to the same level as George's custom, but they're effective and they do work. So the first one we're going to talk about is Yorkskit. And Yorkskit is an Ugnaught that was on the barge. When we first see him, he's being served by R2-D2. And yes, that's R2-D2 with his drink tray. This is a simple custom. I used the Zutmore body, which was actually Zutton, Power of the Jedi, around the 2000s, right around the turn of the century. So I took him, I repainted his jumpsuit to more of a grungy type of orange. I sawed off the ankle holster, and I popped a Legacy Collection Ugnaught head on him. Popped a drink in his hand, and he works. So let's add him. In keeping with that whole R2 or R2-D2 Yorkskit, we're going to now add Gizem. Now, when you remove Zutton's head from this figure right here, what am I going to do with that spearhead? Well, I went out, I picked up an Obi-Wan Kenobi from Attack of the Clones. I added a brown sash, gave him a custom belt, popped the Zutton head on it, and lo and behold, we have another Barge denizen who R2-D2 or R2-D2 can serve. Speaking of R2-D2 on the barge, he wasn't the only one serving drinks. There was another droid, a white droid with red accents. We don't have a name for him. In some circles, he's known as not Bartu. He's known as Jabba's bartender. He was an Entertainment Earth exclusive with 4 other droids. I picked this one up loose off of eBay. He actually gets the job done. He's, kind of cool. You pop him in front of Jabba, and it works. So let's add him into the mix. Now, I've talked about Visum, I've talked about Vidane, and I've talked about Brock Stasher. Now, I've shown Vidane and Brock Stasher. They were available in that Jabba Skiff 3-pack. We have talked about the others and shown the others, but we have not shown Visum. So let's bring Visum in now. Now, Visum, in case you're wondering, and I'm sure once you see him, you'll kind of recognize who he is. Visum is the skiff guard. Let's kind of see if we can prop him up. I don't want him to fall. He's the guard that is on the deck cannon. It's on the railing. He's firing on this skiff. He's firing on this skiff. He keeps hitting it. It keeps listing to the side. And eventually, Luke realizes that if they're going to win this battle of Carkoon, they're going to need to take Visum out. So he makes his way from the skiff to the barge, and he's one of the first aliens that Visum is the first alien he takes out once he gets on there. Speaking of aliens that Luke encounters on the barge, one of them is Klaatu Skiff Guard. And this came out around 2019, Vintage Collection. Great figure. I had almost forgot him. I was getting ready to shoot this and noticed he was on the upper deck of the barge and went, oh my God, I almost forgot him. So thank God I didn't. But another great figure that will go in Jabba's throne room. He actually was seen in the throne room. So if you're wondering if he was just on the barge or if he was in the throne room, he actually made dual appearances, once on the barge and once in the throne room. So having said that, that should wrap up the remaining few denizens I had. I want to thank everybody for their patience. I want to thank everybody for watching all these series. When we get back into it next week, I will move into something else, and hopefully you guys enjoyed that. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Let it never be said that I shied away from something that was difficult. I said this was going to be difficult to kind of get in and film, but you know what? I kind of figured it out, and I just wanted to showcase some of these Jabba's denizens on the barge, and offer a little bit more to this video. And I hope that seeing them all in action motivates you to go out and pick some of these guys up and set up your barge and your Jabba's palace. And you know, hope you had as much fun with this video as I did. So I'm glad you could come along for the journey. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. It was a lot of fun putting this together, you know. This is the time when you kind of get back to all the basics, you know, because you're not just looking at 3 or 4 figures. You're looking at 50, you know. So it makes you kind of delve into each character with a little bit more, you know, detail. So it was fun. So I'm glad you guys came along for the ride with me. Again, I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to start to wrap things up. If you haven't done so, I ask you to hit the subscribe button so I can continue to bring you that valuable Star Wars content we've all come to know and love. If you like what you see, give the video a like. I always say that helps the channel as well. If you have a question or a comment, some input, please leave it in the comment section. You know I'll get back to you, because without you guys, I'm nothing. This channel only exists because of you, the fans. So if you got something, please ask me. I'll happily get back to you. So have a great day, everybody. Thanks for watching, and we will see you on the next video. And as always, may the Force be with you. Boshuda. Oh, 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 oh.